Okay, so what we're going to do here, now that we've got the motherboard all cleaned up and everything's working out well, is I'm going to reinstall the battery. I'm not going to put the Panasonic back in. I'm going to put it in this guy. Snap that there, put that off to the side. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to put it back together in the exact opposite way. So the last thing we took apart was the heat shield. Make sure all the tabs are up. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the heatsink back on with the cooling system. Like so, and there's going to be a little bit of pressure because all those tabs that we had stood back up. So, what I like to do when I reline them is I just make sure all the little screw holes line up. And what I can do while I'm putting the other screws back in if I want to, so I can drop one screw for that holds the heat spreader on, and then we can just play the reverse game of putting back the screws. Okay. Of course, we're going to look for the arrows. Now, don't put them all on super tight to begin with. Do them just loosely. And then, once they're all in, we can kind of torque them into place. Da-da-da. I can pull that out now. And of course we need to make sure that we put these little thermal pads back on to where they were before. 1, 2. Now the next step, of course, is putting the main board back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test for fit first. Perfect. And now it's all about putting the thermal compound on. Okay, so I am going to tell you that when it comes to CPUs and GPUs and all the other PUs that need things, I like to go with the X pattern. Okay. And I don't make too big of an X. I go about 3/4 of the way out the side. And what I'll do is I will use a card to spread it out. Some people say you should let the system when it presses, spread it out. I'm not a fan of that. I'm gonna, just like when you do tile work, like you wanna butter it. Oh wow, it's been a while since I've used this MX4. It does not spread half as good as I remember, but now once we put this on, there is going to be some more spreading because the fit is tighter. So I want to make sure that good coverage. I'm pretty happy with that. And what's going to happen is it's all going to spread out once we put the heat sinks in place. Okay. Put the bottom in. And just like setting a toilet, I'm going to wiggle it as I set it down. Done. Perfect. Then I'm going to get my top section. I'm going to put it in place. Be sure to, of course, spread it out at the areas where we had pulled it off. Of course, make sure that we line up all our screw holes. Done, 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 done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these clamps and put them in first. And I'm not going to torque them all the way down. Until later, when I've got the rest of my screws in at this point. Okay. Then we're going to put in the rest of the screws. Of course, if you're turning a screw and it's snug, it's probably not the right thread. Okay, so then I'm just going to go back around in a counterclockwise fashion, work them all into place. Perfect. And now I'm going to go back to these plates. I'm just going to go back and forth so the pressure is equally distributed. Done. There we go. Those are all in place. So now we're at the part of the show where we can put this back into the bottom. Make sure that there's no little drips of water in there from when I was cleaning it. I think that's the best we're gonna get. Okay. Slide that in. I'm going to make sure that the ports all click into place. This is the part of the show where I'm going to try and put the power connector back in. Good. Good. Done. Perfecto. Okay, that all looks good so far. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the brackets back in for the grounding. Of course, I'm going to take my little screws and set on the side. I believe this one went in the tracks here. And little screws went there. And the other one, I believe, went to the side. Did I miss something? I feel like I might have to. Put this one under. Perfect. Done, done, done. Lift up the tab for the hard drive. And close Plug this back in. It's just a pressure fit. Wiggle. I'm going to set this back in the track where it went. Ooh, I see here that I'm above that metal bracket, so I gotta go underneath it. You see there, underneath now, a little bit better. Okay, it's all looking really good. What I am going to do is I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to go take a look inside the Blu-ray player, because I really want to make sure that the inside is a squeaky clean. So for the Blu-ray player, there should be two screws holding it together. Now it's a smaller Torx than a T1. So I'm assuming it's going to be a T0. Or no, sorry, Phillips. Number 1 Phillips. It's going to be a number 0 Phillips. And it's a number 0 Phillips. Okay. Alright, so I got both screws out. I'm going to lift the back side. And I think the rest of them are all pressure fit, so I might just have to put a fingernail in there. Yeah, I got that side to pop. There's one right dead center. Look at that, it's just a shorty. Okay, ready? Try again. You got the one side off. Oh, we see a plastic weld there. Let's see if we can kind of work that around that. There we go. Lifted the little tabs. Oh wow. So we've got some dust in there. We're gonna see what we can do to get to the laser. Assuming we'll have to separate the top from the bottom. Because I wouldn't mind just quickly cleaning off the laser lens if anything's built up on it. Right now I'm going to give this a blast. Okay. So inside we've got 1, 2, I'm assuming 2 screws to hold the top on. So I'm going to take these 2 screws out. These are also the same number 0 Phillips. These ones are a little bit longer than the ones on the inside. They look about the same as the ones that were on the back. Okay. So that is lifting up. You see a couple pressure clips back down here at the back, so I'm just going to see if I can disengage those by pressing out on them. And I can. So there's those 2 sections. Take those screws out. There's one. The other one's out right there. I'm going to flip this over. Oh, and look, there's a bunch of dust right around that inside edge. So I'm just going to quickly dust it. Take the little magnetic spindle hub thing out. I'm going to get my little toothbrush. I'm just going to hit it with some air. Let me see if I can get my little damp cloth out. That looks better. That looks good. Just gonna set this off to the side. I'm gonna take a look in there. We got some dust. Ooh, we got a lot of dust up here. It's mainly plastic, so I don't mind. Just be careful around some of the loading mechanisms. We don't want to wash off any or rub off any lubricant. We also don't want to rub off any position-y things. We don't want to do the track. You see there's a bunch of hair and things in there. So we're going to give it a little light dusting. Don't blow right on the lens. That's not a good idea. But you can blow around everything else. Okay. Now, I do still see that hair on the mechanism, so I'm just going to use a Q-tip to pull it out. Oh, she's a long one. Yep. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get a little bit of alcohol and just clean off the lens, just lightly graze the top of them, just to pick up any particles that may be sitting there. And then what I'm going to do after that is clean off the spindle hub. So I'm just going to lightly twist across the surface. Done. Well, that looks good in there. What I'm going to do see if I can't pick out any more of that fluff with the Q-tip. So this is what I was going to do with the spindle hub. Just take a bit of the alcohol. A lot of the recommendations would be for like a rubber renew, which is probably a better idea. I just wanted to get any grease or oil that's in places it's not supposed to be off. Everything else looks pretty copacetic. Looks good. Okay. Put it back together in the reverse order. Put the clips in first. Set that into place. I'm going to put the 2 screws back in. I'm not going to snug it up. Just put it until I feel a little bit of resistance. And then this one I'll snug up. And then I'll go back to the other one. And snug that one up as well. Okay. For the shield, I'm going to just flip it over, see how it's looking inside. It's a little dusty. Get a wipe down. The one thing I want to wipe down here is that entry door. I'd like it to continue pulling garbage off of discs that are put in and out. It's just a chunk of felt. There's not a lot going on here. But, you know, it's good to make sure there's no particulate on it because that's going to be touching the surface of your discs. Okay, done. Same thing here. Slide this back on. There's some guides that it'll fall into. I'm going to do it the reverse order. I'm going to put the little tiny screw first. And then I put the two screws at the back. Done. And the other one. Done. Perfect. Okay. Now's the fun spot. Putting it back in the PlayStation. Okay. So I am looking here and I realize the step that happens next that I haven't done yet, I'll zoom out, is the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Because I kept them in a very similar place to where they started, everything is exactly where it should be. So I'm going to take my little piece of tape, gives me my little screw. Now I'm done with these Phillips 0, so I'm going to put that back here. And then we'll go back to a Phillips number 1. And get it in the stand. Done. The other one, pull off the piece of tape, get my screw. Done, done. And I'm just going to tuck this all in the tracks where it's supposed to go. And put that under the little retaining clip. And I'm going to put that through there, under there, through there, do there. And big question now is going to be which one is which? Well, I can tell that the white one's shorter than the black one. So I've got the Bluetooth. You just set it over the connector and push down into place. And the wireless LAN. And you need to be careful putting these back in because you do not want to bend or damage them. They're direct insertion, so you just put them straight on top of where they need to go and push them into place. Let's see if I can get right in there and show you guys. just like that. Okay. And now I can put the optical drive in. The optical drive, we do have a little piece of tape with one little screw that can come out, but the problem we have is going to be this black retainer for this ribbon cable. So I am going to not move the camera for this, and I'm going to put it back together. And if anybody needs anything, I feel like there's something I'm missing here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that black clip up. And I'm going to take this ribbon cable and I'm going to see if I can just pass it right into it. Now there is a little bit of play. I'm not going to pull too hard because it's going to pull it out of the controller inside. But if I get myself enough length, I should be able to set it down into place. Well, I've got some screws that need to go back because I'm taking a visual inventory and I see 1, 2, 3. I thought these two had little screws there. Well, now I'm just right confused. Well, there's dimples here. You know, I don't see the little arrows, but I'm going to pretend there's little arrows there. And if we've done this wrong, somebody let me know in the comments. I remember 2 little silver screws here. Let me know if I'm wrong. And then I remember black screws. This one here. Nope. That's the one that holds. It's held down by the DVD player. Okay, so back here. One here. And one here. Is there another one? That's the one that's held down by the DVD player. Right there. Done. Okay. So back to the DVD player, Blu-ray player. bust out some tweezers. If anyone knows a better way to do this, let me know. I don't like this. I don't like this one little bit. What do they say? I'm sure there's some Dr. Seussism. I realize that comes off because this has to go between this and this. So that's fine. Let's figure out how to put this in. I almost want to put it in back first. Let's give myself a little bit more light here. If anybody's watching right now and, you fancy yourself a video editor, I'd be very happy if you chopped out a bunch of this stuff. Okay. What I'm running into right now is I'm pushing down the little pressure clip when I'm trying to put in the cable. Oh, there we go. There we go. Done. Let's give you all a little view of what happened here. So we've put that cable in there. Now there's a little black line. You see that? That has to go in until it's just above the plastic. Not deeper, but also if there's too much space between that little black line on the ribbon cable, it's not actually making contact. But it's good now, so we can finish this up. Perfect. So we got that back in. Then we're going to put the front back in on top of it. Done, done, done. Good. 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 Put the screw back in place. And then we're going to put all these pressure fits back in there. Do it in the same order but backwards. Do the last one. And the middle one. Perfect. And then last but not least, the one that we started with. Perfecto. That all looks good. Oh, if anyone hadn't noticed, my watch decided to pop itself open today. Okay. Well, I guess we're taking that watch off. If you want to see inside of a Amazfit BIP, there you go. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So this all looks good. That all looks good. That all looks good. We have our fan next. Drop that back into place. We'll flip over the blue tape, and we have 2 screws. Hooah! I'll do the same thing as before. I'm not going to torque them in until I've got both of them in there snug. And of course, they've already been threaded once before, so if it doesn't feel like it's going in smooth, don't force it. Back it off, make a subtle adjustment, go forward again. Done. Okay, and then this one goes over the top and under here. Around here, and plugs in there. And of course, just make sure everything kind of fits snug. Don't want anything to get bit. Let me try and put it back together. We're at the very bitter end of this. The power supply. So the question is, should we take a look inside this power supply and see if we can clean it up a bit? I think yes. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. And let's take a look at what's going on here in this power supply. So if we look here, see 1 screw hole, a bunch of clips, a bunch of dust. So let's start with taking that first screw out. And then just see where it likes to wiggle apart. Oh, I see some tabs. The question is, oh, there's one. So the way we depress these tabs, we just push the little tab in. Push the little tab in. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So across the back there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs on the side where you can see the components. This is not the side that faces out the back of the unit. So I feel like once we lift this up, we can go back to the other side, and there should be probably some more tabs, but these ones will probably be more hinge-like, so I don't feel like we have to depress them. Oh, it's at the top. No, it's not. That's the whole thing. Okay, well, let's just see what we can't do. I feel like it's probably at the bottom of this edge where the grate is. So I'm just gonna come on. You can clearly see where the seam is. My question is, what is securing it? Is it a tab? It looks like the tab is there. Okay, let's see what we can do. Something a little bit more aggressive. I just had to be a little bit more aggressive. They're just little tabs that sit on top. Okay. There's the bottom of the power supply. Nothing looks scorched. Let's take a look. There we go. Oh, I do see some corrosion here. Maybe that's one of the caps that leaked on the board. But yeah, I'm going to hit that with some vinegar and some rubbing alcohol. Rest of the board here looks pretty good. Over here we got some dust, so a quick little wipe down will do good. Let's take the whole thing out. Not too bad in there. Oh, we'll look at the top. I don't see anything leaking here. Let me go down to this side. I don't see anything leaking there. Caps all look pretty good now. Granted, I'm going to give this a quick blast out with air. I don't think we need to change anything or test anything. There was never a voltage problem with this before. So a quick clean will go a long way. There it is now. Much better. Give this a blast out. Also hit it with a damp cloth. Pick up some of that dust that might be in there. I'm not too worried. It'll all dry out by the time we get it back together. Done. Done. Okay. Let's clean up this mess over here. So a little bit of vinegar and then a little bit of rubbing alcohol afterwards. Vinegar will eat the etchings on your PCB, so be very careful with how long you leave it on there. Everything else looks pretty good. That should be good enough. Now I'm going to take the other side of this Q-tip. I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure none of those points are damaged at all. They look pretty good. I'm going to hit it with a clean, dry Q-tip just to help get that alcohol off there sooner. Alcohol is very good at evaporating, that's why we use it. But, you know, any kind of fluid on a device will, you know, cause some partial conductivity and could lead to short circuits and could cause a whole lot of problems. Okay, well, it was a fun adventure inside the power supply. Put this back together. Make sure it fits back in there. And of course, we're going to do the opposite after we wipe it down. Looks good. Okay. Now we're going to put those little tabs in first. Let's get right in there. And you can literally see how tiny those little tabs are. Come on, focus. So, if you can see it, there's one right here, one right here, one right here. I think there might be another one I missed. Yeah, that one right there. They're just the tiniest little things. And it's the flex that kind of pops them apart. So I'm going to line them all up. And just flex the body around them. There you go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let me get the power supply back into place. Come on. One. Two. Thumbs up. Okay, let's take this back apart. I see what I missed. There's a little dowel that the power supply sits on right there. So it sits on the bottom and then the top goes on. I'm okay with that. So see that dowel goes right there. There we go. It falls into place. So now we get those tabs on again. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tab, 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 tab. And you can see all of them through the holes. So they're good. We put the Phillips screw back in the little Phillips screw hole right there. And of course, let's put the light back on the subject. Done. Looks good, looks good. Everything looks good. Okay, let's bring back the system. Power supply is going to drop into place right where it was before. I'm going to make sure you don't pinch any of the foam here because that's how it blows across the power supply. Make sure the cable's not in the way. Make sure the cable's not in the way on this side. Now, remember those two pins are right here, right? So we're going to have to put a little bit of force, but also make sure that they've lined up. And that was it, huh? Really? Nope. There we go. So, 2 screws. Thank you, piece of blue tape. One of them goes right here. And I connect the power. And the other one goes over here. And I'm going to take this cable and wrap it under that tab and up and over the top. And plug it into the connection, like so. I think everything's looking pretty good. Now, because I'm a big fan of, assuming the best, I'm going to put the whole thing back together. So, putting it back together, I did speak of it when I had the extra screw in, but you see here there's 3 tabs. Those are kind of hinged. Let me just zoom in right there. Zoom in. Really? Can you see them? Why won't you focus? There we go. So those 3 tabs go in the front, right in front of the antennas. And the whole thing tilts down into place. No clips, no tabs or nothing. So you should hear no clicking or popping. I'm going to hold both top and bottom. Flip this upside down. And then I'm going to go and put a screw in each of the bottom holes. They're all the same length. I am going to skip the security screws right now until I get everything else in play. I have 1 extra screw. Oh yes, because under the void sticker, which I forgot the first time, there was another screw hole. Perfect. So I'm going to, very much like with everything else, I'm not going to torque these right away. I'm going to put them in, snug them up a little bit, change them up, do a bit of a crisscross pattern. Someone once told me how to change a tire on a car, and I use that for everything. Right? Never, work yourself around in a circle. Just, crisscross. That way, you don't have to worry about it being uneven. It's going to settle itself into place. And of course, like I said time and time again, don't torque it until they're all snug, because you want it to sit in place properly. Okay. 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 Turn this. Take out the number 1 Phillips. Go to the number 6 security Torx. No, this is a number 9 security. This is a number 9 security Torx. Perfect. Number 9. I'm going to put 4 screws in. One, 2. Three. And 4. And tighten that one. And make my way back. Tight. 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 Done. Okay. This rubber foot cap is going to go, so we're going to put the rubber ones on. So that's a rubber one, goes on a corner foot. That's a rubber one, goes on a corner foot. Rubber one goes on a corner foot. Flat ones go on the inside. Oh, this one's kind of plastic, shiny. And there's the one that goes under the void sticker. There. Done, 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 done. We're not at the point where I can start trying it out yet. We have one thing left to do, and that's replace the hard drive. Now, we are not going to just put back in this 160 gig Toshiba, which I have no signs that it's failed. You know, everything says that it's still good. I'm going to put the security bit back. I'm going to replace this 160 gig with this Seagate 1 terabyte. That's going to give us 8, 9 times more space. So I want to give me the exact equation on how much more space it's going to give. And I'm just going to lift the caddy off. Perfect. And we'll slide that into place. The great thing about SATA is SATA always lines up. It's a standard. Well, IDE was all over the place. The first couple generations of SATA didn't guarantee it was going to line up, but the newer ones, these ports here are in the same spot. So it's going to make life a whole lot easier. You're not going to have to worry about damaging anything by sliding the hard drive in. Back with the early SATA drives or the IDE drives, like the ones you would get for a PlayStation 2. Big problems, or at least it was a bunch of work to make sure that, you know, you had the right hard drive. Otherwise, you'd have a bunch of headaches. Okay, so got that. I'll take it. I'm going to lower it back in. I'm going to factory reset this machine once I get it turned on, so I don't need to worry about what's on there. Granted, I did a scan, I did a format, I made sure that the sectors were all good behind the scenes, because I don't want to put a hard drive in here, start loading it, and then find out in 3 months that the hard drive's bad. Because the PlayStation 3, you can't just copy stuff over, right? You have to load it every single time because the hard drive's encrypted. So make sure you have a good hard drive before you go and change it. Someone's like, I got an old hard drive, I'm not using anymore. And take a look at it. Make sure it's got a lot of life. Like, I think this one, we did the math on it, was 2,000 hours or 2,100 hours. That's like 90 days. A hard drive that's 90 days old has very, very little on it. So, we are back together. I am going to take my HDMI cable and my power cable and see if it turns on. Power cable is in the box. Ugh. Do 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 do. Okay. HDMI. I got a red light. I got a green light. Sounds like it's spinning up. We will see if I get something on the screen. I'm waiting for it to go beep, 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 and fail. Oh, look at that. Connect a controller using the USB cable and then press the PlayStation button. Oh, I'm happy to say that it turned on and it hasn't failed. If you have questions or comments, if I need to make another video where we go and dig in deeper, let me know. Talk to you. Thank you.